the Encyclopedia of Serial Killers. Howard Arthur Allen, an African-American serial killer with a taste for elderly victims. Allen was one of 8 children who were raised by an impoverished single mother. He sometimes stole food for the family. Allen was enrolled in special education classes for mentally disabled children and was still reading at a 2nd grade level when he left elementary school. A special education director said Allen had difficulty processing language as a child, that his thinking and decision-making would be very concrete, and that he could have difficulty understanding the consequences of his conduct and could be easily led. There were disputes over whether Allen was mentally disabled, since he scored 104 on an IQ test and his mother called him an average student. None of Allen's family members described him as anything other than of normal intelligence, nor did any of 18 people who submitted letters on his behalf before sentencing. Howard Allen never strayed far from hometown Indianapolis in his search for prey. In August 1974, at age 24, he invaded the home of 85-year-old Opal Cooper, beating her to death in the course of a petty robbery. Convicted on a reduced charge of manslaughter, Allen received a term of 2 to 21 years in state prison. Paroled in January 1985, he returned to Indianapolis and found work in a car wash, biding his time before he resumed the hunt. On May 18, 1987, a 73-year-old Indianapolis woman narrowly escaped death when a prowler choked and beat her in her home. 2 days later, Laverne Hale, 87, was attacked in a similar fashion, dying of her injuries on May 29th. The raids continued on June 2nd, when a burglar ransacked the home of an elderly man 5 blocks from the Hale murder scene. This time, the tenant was absent. The prowler vented his anger by setting the house on fire. On July 14th, Ernestine Griffin, age 73, was murdered in her Indianapolis home, stabbed 8 times with a 10-inch butcher knife. A kitchen toaster smashed repeatedly against her skull. Grieving relatives estimated that the killer had escaped with $15 and a camera belonging to his victim. The case broke on August 4th, 1987, with Howard Allen's arrest on multiple charges. Witnesses linked him to the May 18th attack, leading to Allen's indictment on charges of burglary, battery, and unlawful confinement. He was also charged with arson and burglary from the June 2nd incident, as well as the murder of Ernestine Griffin. Police were not finished with their suspect, however. As it happened, Laverne Hale had been a neighbor of Allen's, living directly behind his house, and he became a suspect in her murder, based on her killer's modus operandi. In early August, detectives announced that Allen was a prime suspect in 11 other cases, each involving robbery or assault of elderly victims in their homes around Indianapolis. In the spring of 1988, Allen was convicted of burglary and felony battery in the May 18th assault, plus an additional count of habitual criminal behavior. He was sentenced to 88 years on those charges, but the worst was yet to come. On June 11th, 1988, he was convicted of murder and robbery in the slaying of Ernestine Griffin, with the jury recommending capital punishment. At this writing, Allen awaits execution on Indiana's death row. Update. On August 30th, 1988, he was placed on death row, where he spent the next 25 years awaiting a ruling by a U.S. District Court on a petition for a right of habeas corpus. After years of unsuccessful attempts to prove that he was mentally disabled and thus ineligible for execution, one of Allen's appeals was successful. He was resentenced to 60 years in prison for the murder. The Indiana Department of Correction had listed his release date as April 23, 2035. Allen was in prison at the Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. Allen died on June 5, 2020, at the age of 71. His death was confirmed by the Indiana Department of Correction.